The Washington County Quorum Court is now called into session. Good evening. Again, we have another packed house and packed agenda. We will go ahead and get started. J.P. Lemming, will you lead us in prayer and pledge?
Thank you, Judge. I've got a friend, Kyle Curry, that's going to do it for me.
Where is it?
May we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time. We thank you for this night. Father, we thank you for a country where we can come together. And Father, I just pray a hedge of protection around our emergency service providers and our troops, whether abroad or home. Father, I pray for wisdom for our servants tonight. Pray for safety. And thank you for this country, Father. Thank you for your Son and what he did for us in this time of the year. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, J.P. Lemming and Mr. Curry. All right, so first item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. J.P. Deacons.
Thank you, Judge. I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda. I would like to postpone item 8 until the March Quorum Court meeting. I'm doing this at the request of the applicants.
Item 8, that is the
ordinance.
Ozark Sanctuary Cemetery.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to second that.
I'm doing this at the request of the applicants. They're hearing the concerns of their neighbors, and they have agreed to this extension to go ahead and do their perk testing, their engineering study, and to try to secure licensure from the Arkansas Department of Health. And I want to commend them, and I appreciate them working with their neighbors to preserve those relationships out there. And I hope my justice colleagues will join me in supporting this move out to March.
All right, so we have a motion to remove item 8, which is the Ozark Sanctuary Cemetery, a second by J.P. Lemming. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that was taken off the agenda. J.P. Madison.
My understanding is that I'm making a motion to remove item 9 from the agenda because we denied the conditional use permit last month, and my understanding is the applicant has already filed an appeal.
J.P., that's the
It's
Weddington
the Weddington Mines, yes,
Okay.
we denied it last month with a vote of 9.
We have a motion.
Second the motion. Remove, just remove indefinitely, postpone indefinitely.
I guess so, yes, I adopt that
Okay.
motion.
So we got a motion to postpone indefinitely, second by J.P. Hires. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, so item 9 is off, and that is, if it's postponed indefinitely, is that never to come back on the agenda? Correct. Okay, so then that one's off, and it's not to come back. All right, so we have the removal of item 8, the removal of item 9. J.P. Hires?
Thank you. I would like to amend the agenda and add to it ordinance 19-II-36. Shane and Sarah Helmer, it's a conditional use permit that we received in our emails, a non-contentious lot split, yes.
Second that.
All right, so that's item 19-II-36.
No, it's 136.
136, I'm sorry. 19-I-136. Let me, hold tight. Okay, I'm just letting some of the people walk out. Thanks, all right. If you guys would exit quietly. Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion to approve item 19, I-136.
Add it,
Add it, I'm sorry, And
I
then
have a
second?
question. I have a question.
Okay.
Somebody
JP
seconded
Madison.
already, right?
Who was the second?
Yeah.
Who was it? JP Lemming. Okay, JP Madison.
I feel pretty strongly that when we're adding something to the agenda, I want to make sure we're not sort of cheating anybody in the public who may have wanted to comment. So I'd like to know from maybe planning staff if there was anybody objecting when the CUP was entertained, or the lot split,
Come on,
whatever.
there was none. Okay.
No problems?
All right.
Thank you.
JP Harbison.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Hold
So,
on, let's vote on this.
is that adding another one, or is it still on this
I'm
one?
removing one.
Okay, hold on, let me finish this one. So we got a motion on the floor to add 19I 136, a second by JP Lemming. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, so that was added. That'll be item number 24. All right, JP Harbison.
I make a motion to remove on the consent agenda number 1, which was an ordinance to allow the Sunset Fire Department to collect dues. There's a conflict, and the county clerk cannot do, the Greenland School District is having a bond issue on January the 10th. So therefore, that only gives 2 days to get the ballot done. So I've talked with the Sunset Fire Department, and they have agreed to postpone this. So we need to remove that item from the agenda.
Off the consent agenda?
Yes.
You guys see what that is?
16-1.
16-1 on your consent agenda, the
16-1.
very first one. So there's a motion to remove item 1 from the consent agenda by JP Harbison, second by JP Madison. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, so that one is removed off. JP Duncan.
I move to add item 19-I-134. It's a conditional use permit. It was heard at the planning meeting last week. No concerns, no response to letters to the neighbors, so not contentious.
All right.
I second it.
That's a motion by JP Duncan, a second by JP Lemming. The same question.
I want to ask my same question, but I'd like to know, since this is a conditional use permit, it's a little different from a lot split, what is the use?
That was wow.
It's the, yeah, it's a storage building. And this was in our email today, too.
Nothing? Okay, again, another
We-
9.
We've had some pretty controversial storage units. There was no public,
Nothing? All right. All right, so we have a motion to add 19I 134, a second by JP Lemming.
Yes.
All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion passes, and that's now added. That's item number 25. JP Bowman.
Yep. Judge, I'd like to make a motion that we recognize that Mr. Bowman's resigning from the Quorum Court.
Oh, wow, okay. So that's a resolution.
We have a resolution.
All right, so we have a motion by JP Bowman.
137. I'll pass it.
That'll be item number 20, well,
Nobody vote in favor, okay?
26.
So sorry, Charlie.
And that'd be what? What number?
Item 19I 137.
19I 137. Item number 26 on your agenda then. All right, so a resolution to add JP Bowman's resolution. I have a motion. Nobody's giving you a second, so I guess that's time.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to accept resolution number 19-I-137 to the agenda.
Well, let me finish 134 first,
Oh.
the first one.
I thought we were finished with that one. We
Is
finished.
his, JP
Yes.
Bowman? Who was the second?
No, I made the motion.
Oh, I
We
thought
need a
he
second.
did.
He can't, he just said he's
gotcha.
resigning.
Okay, gotcha. He's until he's finished, right? Okay, so you want to be the second, JP Ecke?
Somebody
JP Ecke?
second.
Well, okay,
You be
second.
second. All right, so we
Okay,
have a
second.
motion by JP Bowman for his resolution, and a second by JP Ecke. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Yeah. All right, and that's item number 26 for your agenda. Any, JP Johnson?
Yeah, thank you, Judge. I move that we add resolution item 19I-138, which is a resolution to express appreciation of Washington County to Harvey Bowman for his service as a justice of the peace.
Second.
All right, got a motion by J.P. Johnson, resolution acknowledging and recognizing J.P. Bowman, second by J.P. Madison. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right. J.P.
Thank
Ecke.
you. Thank you, Judge. I'd like everybody to, I want to be clear about this. What my motion is going to be that item number 5, which is citizens' comments, be moved back to where it originally was prior to a few years ago, which was at the end of the agenda. It was moved to the beginning of the agenda for a specific purpose, and I believe that purpose, back when Marilyn Edwards was the judge, has been accomplished. My purpose in moving this citizens' comments is to stay focused on the agenda. The purpose of this Quorum Court is to have a discussion and to vote on the ordinances that are presented before us. At each ordinance, there is citizens' comments to address that particular ordinance. So you will still have your opportunity to make a comment on that ordinance, if you're supporting it or if you're objecting to it. So hear me clearly, you're not being silenced. You have the opportunity within each ordinance. We will not take a vote unless we have citizens' comment. That is parliamentary procedure. And at the end of our agenda, there is also, before adjournment, we have citizens' comments again. I feel that it'd be wise of this court to stay focused on the agenda, and time permitting, we end up giving half an hour to 40 minutes of the beginning of our meetings to public comment rather than the purpose of our meeting. And the purpose of our meeting is the agenda. That's why we have it published before, so that way the public can have it and you can be educated as to what is on the agenda and be prepared when the ordinance is up for a vote to make your citizens' comments on that. So therefore, I move that we move the citizens' comments time to the end of the agenda after the business of the county has been taken care of for the evening.
J.P. Madison.
That ordering of citizen comments was adopted by ordinance. It cannot be amended by simple motion. So I think the
Well, which
motion is out
ordinance
of
are you,
order.
exactly are you talking about?
Well, I think I have the floor, and it's procedurally out of order. It's was adopted in an ordinance amendment a few years ago, so it can't be amended by simple motion.
So
You can't do that.
let me suggest this, and I hear your request, and if it's by ordinance, then yes, it would have to come. But let's have it taken to one of the committees so it can come out of committee, and so.
That's a great idea.
So put it in
It is just to
county services.
expedite the time management and to deal wisely with the
Got it.
agenda. Thank
Gotcha.
you.
All right, so any other additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, so if I recall, the adoption of the agenda, amended agenda, would be adding item number 24, which is 19I-136, number 25, 19I-134, 19I-137, which would be number 26 on the agenda, and item 19I-138, which will be number 27 on the agenda. We will be removing item number 8, which is the cemetery, and number 9, which would be Weddington Mines, and consent agenda item number 1. Did I capture them all?
I make a motion to accept the agenda.
We got a motion to accept the amended agenda, the second by J.P. Madison. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All righty, we got through the agenda. Preliminary motions.
I move that we suspend the rules and read ordinances by title only.
We have a motion to suspend the rules, read by title only, and resolutions, ordinance by title only. A second by J.P. Lemming. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right, and that one passes as well. So item 5, citizen comments. We're going to ask citizens to come. You have 15 minutes, up to 3 minutes apiece, to come and visit with us, share what's going on with you, or concerns or compliments that you have for the county. This is that time to do that. I do want to say, in light of the last meeting, that we want to make sure that we respect those who are in the box talking. And so as you come, again, state your name, say who you are and where you're from, and then we just ask the rest of the audience, citizens in the county, to respect who's sitting in that chair. Keep comments to yourselves so we can hear what's going on. And I did visit with the sheriff just to make sure that there's always going to be order in the court. So with that being said, citizen comments.
Good evening. My name is Jim Gallagher, and I live on Martin Road in western part of Fayetteville, west of Fayetteville. I came up here initially to talk about the quarry, but obviously there's nothing to talk about tonight on that issue. However, this discussion that we just had a few minutes ago is really kind of interesting. If we come up here to speak with you about an issue in the citizen comment, and it does say items that are not on the agenda, what you're telling us is we need to come in here at 6 o'clock and wait till 7, 7:30, 7:45, 9:30, whenever you get around to us, to be the last item to discuss any issue we have, because we want to take care of the county business and not be bothered by those pesky citizens who have to talk. So if you can't spend 15 minutes talking to us, you're probably in the wrong seat tonight. Let's get this thing a little bit focused. Yes, you do publish an agenda, but I just heard 7 changes made to the agenda. 2 items we've never heard of are going to be heard, and a whole lot of others are not going to be heard. This is kind of silly. Move the thing to the end of the meeting. You have no respect for the citizens, do you?
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. Citizen comments.
My name is Sherry Main. I live at 15574 Riches Road, Fayetteville. And I asked Eva to do a handout for me. Everyone should have it now. And it is a handout from my attorney that was emailed yesterday. And I would like to get that comment into the record as required by ordinance 2009-33, 4367 and 2010-02, amending section 11-206, comma, or in parentheses F, appeals from board in chapter 11, planning and development, article 6, zoning in Washington County. Any written documents that are to be submitted to the Quorum Court shall be submitted to the county judge's office no later than 10 days prior to the hearing. By majority vote of the Quorum Court, any submission letter later than 10 days prior to the meeting may be received. So I respectfully request to submit these documents to the Quorum Court for, to be placed in the administrative record on this matter of Whittington Mine for any further civil into the circuit, scratch civil, into the circuit that can be used in the circuit court record.
Thank you, Ms. Main.
And that is my comment for the attorney. And I would like to make a comment for myself regarding Riches Road. Our area is zoned as single-family homes and small farms. A narrow road which is home to families and homes, like Riches Road, is not suitable for dozens of dump trucks every day. The cut must be denied because it's already been denied, but these are my notes I had, and I want to say them and have them on record. So hear me out, please.
1 minute remaining.
It does not analyze or even consider the applicant's use of Riches Road, despite the fact they are presently sending dozens of trucks down the road, which they have last week. The applicant is essentially incomplete on his application. Washington County ordinance requires conditional uses to be compatible with surrounding land uses, including protecting safety and public health. Allowing the mine here creates a serious safety issue incompatible with the homes on Riches Road, which is only 30 feet wide. The applicant has failed to show how this mine and its related increase in dump truck use is compatible with Riches Road residences, or how it will hurt property values, health, and safety. It's up to the applicant, Whittington Mine, and we are confident they can't prove their case here. I respectfully request
10
this
seconds.
comment be
10
placed
seconds.
in the administrative record of this matter.
Thank you. Public comments. Public comments.
Thank you, Judge.
Good evening.
My name is Vicki Kelly, and I am the founder and president of Natural State Burial Association. And I wanted to ask if there was anyone here willing to give me a tally of the positive comments that you might have received in favor of the cemetery during this past couple of days. Has anyone counted those up?
This is just a public comment where you just make your comment to the body. There's not a question and answer.
I do know that it is a substantial number of people, and they understand something that is of utmost importance, and that is that the cemetery is asking for nothing out of the ordinary. Every single aspect of this cemetery is within existing law. It is against federal law for anyone to insinuate that embalming, a coffin, a burial container, or a vault does anything to protect water quality. It does not. It is against the law to insinuate that it does. The state of Arkansas is one of the top 3 states for misrepresentation by the funeral industry to its consumers. This is something that I have been doing public programs and informing the citizens of this state for over 5 years. We're ahead of you in knowing our rights. It is true that our organization will continue to educate about the option to purchase funeral industry items, or simply, as the vast majority of our respondents indicate, being wrapped in a shroud and placed in a shallow grave. My last statement is the Office of Coroner has absolutely no jurisdiction over the application, the permitting, or the operation of a cemetery. He determines the cause of death, signs the death certificate, and releases the body to the family. It is the family's choice how that body will be handled and how it will be buried. And I really am amazed at the landowners' intention to maintain positive relationship with their neighbors by getting all of their ducks in a row and coming back and saying water quality is not an issue.
Okay, your time is up.
And I do appreciate y'all hearing this out. Thank you.
Ms. Jackie. Public comments. Public comments. Okay, we'll move on to item 6, approval of the minutes.
I move approval of the minutes.
Have a motion to approve the minutes, a second by J.P. Jenkins. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right, and the motion passes. Item 7, there was no disposal report, so you don't have that. I do want to make a comment. One, many of you guys may know that I lost my mother-in-law a few days ago, and I got people coming in, flying in, and I'm going to leave early tonight to make sure we take care of some of those family matters. So I'll be asking one of the JPs to come up and finish up the meeting. I'm going to leave probably about 7:30, so depending on where we are in the meeting, But I do want to thank you guys for the outreach and support and the cars and flowers, and I can't thank you enough. And some of you guys know she moved in with me about 7 years ago with my mother-in-law, and so it's just really, you know, it's part of the family. And anyway, let me stop talking because better news, or no, she's in a good place now. So today, today we got. Today we got, today we got word. So last year, 2018, Arkansas Center for Research and Economics did a top-down study on all 75 counties and ranking them in their transparency and their engagement with citizens in their county. And for the first time when they did that in 2018, Washington County ranked #1 in those 3 categories. They measure you in fiscal, administrative, and political categories. Fiscally, thank you. Fiscally, how are you doing as far as making your public aware of what your budgets look like? Can they access your past budgets, your current budgets? Can they see your audit reports, et cetera? So that was one category. The second category is administrative. Can citizens come to meetings? Do they know when your meetings are? Committee meetings? Can they access the meetings to ask questions? So administratively, do they have access, and are they able to engage and look online or what have you from administrative? And then the political is, regardless of parties, do they have their information available, accessible to that, again, the public? And so that was last year. We were #1, and on a 100-point scale, we were like 87, but we ranked #1 in all 3 categories. #2, the county who was number 2 were ranked #2 in 2 categories and like #5 in the 3rd category. So we did lead the way in regard to those 75 counties. This morning we got the 2nd year they did this, and we again this year came in first place in all 3 categories. So again, I want to share that with you guys because you guys make this happen. Whether you're here to share comments, or out there calling our road departments, going out there and pulling our information offline. Again, we're ranked #1. In fact, we went up from where we were last year. And so again, from transparency and engagement in the county, Washington County again leads the way. And so I salute you and thank you for that. And I was, again, a lot of stuff going on, but I was really excited to see that again. Congratulations to you guys. To all our elected officials and the JPs, because again, it is a collaborative work that all that happens. And so again, I thank you. And to our employees, I shared that. In fact, you guys were the second group. I shared it with our road department this morning. We had our Christmas luncheon. So again, we'll get some of that information posted online so you guys can kind of see and see how they got to all that. Last thing, again, we had our first Christmas at the historical courthouse, and many of you guys came. And again, I thank you guys for the donations. We partnered with the Arkansas Children's Hospital, and I tell you, that was just an outpouring. I spent years working with the Children's Hospital in Little Rock, and was part of getting the opening here in Northwest Arkansas, and just wanted to continue that partnership. And again, the county just came out, our elected officials, the UJPs, and so great Christmas, and Sheriff and his team singing. Well, Miss Holly was really the better singer, but it was really, really a good time. And thank you guys for coming out and sharing a little bit of you with those children in the hospital so they can have a better Christmas. So we'll continue to do that. All right, with that, we'll move on to item 10, that's right, we moved 8, 9. So item 10, ordinance increasing the salary of Director of Veterans Affairs, J.P. Pond.
Yes, sir. Mr. Lester, could you read 10.1, please?
An ordinance increasing the salary of the Director of Veterans Affairs in the Veterans Affairs budget for 2019.
I'm going to add to your reading of the title. The total appropriation is $887. I just thought there might be people listening that might want to understand that. And I would move to pass 10.1.
Second.
It's just only on the second reading.
It's
so-
only second reading.
Yes, so next month it'll go to third unless there's a suspension
Move
of
to
the rules.
suspend the rules and read it a third time.
We got a motion to suspend the rule and read for the third time, a second by J.P. Ecke. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? No. Ms. Patty, will you do a roll?
Harvey Bowman. Judith Yonez. Patrick Deacons. Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan. Chandra Washington. Eva Madison. Andrea Jenkins. Suki Hires. Sue Madison. Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham.
Okay, it passes, so we'll go ahead and move to the third reading.
Move to pass.
He has to read it.
We gotta read it first. I'm getting in a hurry. Excuse me.
An ordinance increasing the salary of the veterans, of the Director of the Veterans Affairs in the Veterans Affairs budget for 2019.
Move to pass 10.1.
We've got a motion to pass 10.1, a second by J.P. Ecke. Discussion? J.P. Hires.
Thank you, Judge. I have a question. You said that the total appropriation is $887. I'm assuming that's for the 2020 budget? No, so I'd like to know how much this will add to our 2020 budget that we've already passed.
This won't add anything to the 2020 budget. This was only for 2019. There is another ordinance that is on the agenda that will discuss or address the 2020 budget, but this ordinance will only be for the 2019 budget.
J.P. Hires.
Okay, in that case, I'd like to know how much the appropriation will be for the 2020 budget.
Oh, you guys got to pull the budget back out. J.P. Madison.
So I'm curious if this is on what was to be second reading, and is for $887, and it's only for 11 more days of the year. So should that 887 have been reduced? Because it would only be prospective. So I don't know how we would. So we're gonna give somebody a raise for 11 days.
Well, technically, when y'all pass these, what's historically happened in any one of these is, regardless of the number of readings, it goes back to the day that it was initially read. And that's what, and I think there was some discussion last year about an issue, and I believe I think the Johansson Group and our HR director stated that it typically prorates back to the day, was my understanding, but I couldn't say for sure, and I don't know that our HR director's here.
I don't know how it's possible if we pass an ordinance, even if it's effective today, that we would go back to October and make it effective. That seems very counterintuitive. I think we need to be very cautious about legislating retroactively. That's concerning to me. So, thank you, Judge.
All right. Anyone else? J.P. Ecke.
I want to praise what Director Medina is doing down at the Veterans Services, and all the veterans would stand up and salute him. He has done more for Washington County that had been done by his predecessor, probably in the 20 years that predecessor was there. He has been praised by Senator Bozeman, who is very generous with his time with some of our JPs when they went to DC, and his office has worked very well with Director Medina in helping veterans get their services when there's a lapse in coverage, or not coverage, but in communication between outsourcing services and getting services done. Chris Stone had a growth the size of my finger coming out of the back of his neck, and nobody would listen to him down at the Veterans Hospital. They said, no, you have to go here. No, you have to go there. No, you have to do this. You have to do that. After 6 months, and it kept on bleeding and bleeding, he came up to me, says, I'm not in your district, but can you help me? I said, yes, I can, because I know who can help you, and that's Director Medina. He took phone call, phone call, phone call. We got Senator Bozeman's office. Then you know what? By golly, he got service within 3 days. So that is the effectiveness of Director Medina and what he's doing for our veterans here in Washington County. And he deserves more than this if we gave a merit raise based on, let's just say, volume and percentages of people and veterans that he's been able to help. So it's with a great privilege and honor that I am recommending that this court pass $887 to Director Medina. Thank you.
J.P. Pond.
I'm going to say I am proud of the staff and the facility at our local Veterans Administration. I go there, I use their services, and there's none better in the country. I'm also going to tell you, I don't have any problems when someone comes to me and say, how can a veteran comes to me and says, how can I get help with this? I'm proud to have them come to our Director Medina's facility. And I think this is very worthwhile. And I am one of the people that tells people Director Medina has earned this. I'm not a person that tells you they deserve it. He's earned it. He does deserve it. But I can't go by what somebody deserves and say we need to give them this raise. The veterans that go there, like I said, I'm proud to direct them his way. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Pond. J.P. Madison.
I'm going to vote against this, but I think everybody needs to be really clear. This is not about the person who holds the position or how good a job they're doing. This is about someone who works for government. And a lot of our, plenty of our county employees work hard and do a great job and have earned raises that we don't have the money to give them. We had to fight to give our employees who face people with guns on a daily basis just a little bit of money. And so it troubles me that we've made this about focusing on who we think does a really good job and who is entitled to a raise. If every one of our county employees came and sat at that podium and asked us for $887, I think all of us would be hard pressed to turn them down on an individual basis. There's no doubt that Mr. Medina does a great job and that he's really expanded our veteran services, and that's remarkable and that's commendable. But our deputies, our folks that work at the jail, the people that grade roads and operate backhoes, and the people that work in the clerk's office, the people who patrol the parking lot, all of those people work hard and are deserving of money, but we don't have the money to pay them. And so for us to make this about singling out one person and saying they deserve a raise to the detriment of every one of our county employees is really, really sad. At Christmas time, for us to say we had to fight for our employees to get a 3% raise, but we're going to single out a select few and say you deserve more. That's not good personnel policy, and that's not doing a service to those who work hard for the county. Thank you.
Anyone else? And then the next four will be all employees of mine, and all of which I talked about back in September when we started budget meetings. All that I talked to each one of you guys about when you sat down in my office and went through budgets. When I came here and did our budget review, that I had 4 employees that were looking at either a merit and or a market. And so I think we have 2 for market. The market is dictating, or that, as J.P. Pond said, they've earned, and just those 4. But I shared that back in September, October, November, and here we are in December. I would appreciate a good vote for all of these, because I think that each one has, whether it be the market and/or earning, that's why I put that. I spend years in HR and understand what you're saying, J.P. Madison. This is the world in which I come out of. And how I got to Arkansas is doing HR and working in this space. So anyway, J.P. Pine,
Move to pass 10.1.
Second.
and we had a second. Who was that? That was J.P. Ecke.
Mr.
Public comments? Any public comments?
My name is Beth Koger, Fayetteville. I don't understand what Attorney Lester just said. It says up there under Article 1, the salary of the director, is hereby increased to whatever that is. But then under the appropriation is $887. But does that mean that it's only increased for 2019? Or are we going to have to go back in 2020, in a couple of weeks from now, and adjust the budget to cover that? I'm not understanding that. That's my comment.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Ms. Patty, the roll.
Harvey Bowman. Yes. Judith Yanez. Yes. Patrick Deakins.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Shonda Washington. Eva Madison. No. Andrea Jenkins. No. Suki Hires. No. Sue Madison. No. Willie Lemming.
Heck, yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
All right, ordinance 10.1 passes. 11.1, J.P. Pine.
11.1, an appropriation ordinance. An ordinance increasing the salary of the county attorney and the county attorney budget for 2019. And so I've read it. Do I ask Mr. Lester to read it again?
You don't have to.
Okay.
There's only a second reading.
This is on second reading. I move to suspend the budget and put this on the third and final reading.
To suspend the rules and move to the third reading?
Yes.
Second.
A motion to suspend the rules, then move to a third reading, second by J.P. Duncan. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman. Yes. Judith Yanez. Yes. Patrick Deakins.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Yes. Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Shonda Washington. Eva Madison. No. Andrea Jenkins. No. Suki Hires. No. Sue Madison. No. Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
No. No.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
What was that number, Ms. Patty?
9 to 5.
9, okay. So that one will move on to the third next month. Item 12.1, J.P. Pine.
Mr. Lester.
An ordinance increasing the salary of the grants administrator and the grants department budget for 2019.
I'm going to read the bottom line here. The total appropriation is $1,265. Move to suspend the rules and put this on third reading.
Second.
A motion to move to suspend the rules, move to a third reading, seconded by J.P. Duncan. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Judith Yanez. Yes. Patrick Deakins.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Yes. Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Shonda Washington. Eva Madison. No. Andrea Jenkins. No. Suki Hires.
No.
Sue Madison. No. Willie Lemming.
No.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
That one is that 9?
9.
Okay, so that will move to a third reading next. 13.1, J.P. Pine.
Mr. Lester, would you read 13.1, please?
An ordinance increasing the salary of the purchasing manager and the general services budget for 2019.
Move to suspend the rules and put this on third reading.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rules and move to a third reading, second by J.P. Duncan. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? No. Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez. Patrick Deacons. Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan. Shonda Washington. Eva Madison. Andrea Jenkins. Suki Hires. Sue Madison. Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham.
That's 10, okay. All right, so we'll read it again.
An ordinance increasing the salary of the purchasing manager in the general services budget for 2019.
Any discussion?
I
J.P. Pine?
One more comment. I misread on one before that didn't make it, which was $887. This one here is a total appropriation, $1,265 for the purchasing manager, and I moved to pass 13.1.
Got a motion to pass 13.1 and a second by J.P. Duncan. Any other discussion? J.P. Hires.
Thank you, Judge. So although this is $1,265 to the 2019 budget, it will result in a $4,446 adjustment that we have to make to our 2020 budget. I'm voting against all of these raises, again, not because I don't think that these people are great at their jobs, but because I agree with J.P. Madison that we had to fight very hard to get a extra 1% raise for all of our county employees, and I do not find it fair that some people are getting a much more substantial raise than others. So just so you know where I stand, thank you.
J.P. Pine.
Speaking as one of the people that had to fight for that extra 1% for the employees, I'm going to tell you, I'm for these raises. I really don't appreciate the livelihood of the employees being made something political. It should be unbiased. I want to tell you that some of these employees, I would have done the same thing for the employees that were here before. We have had a struggle for so many years to maintain staffs with employees that were qualified, that could do the job. For so many years, we've brought people in and spent a lot of time and tax money training them. And then, after they've got a little experience under their belt, I can't blame them for going someplace where they can better themselves. So I move to pass.
Any other discussion? We had, I think you already passed the motion in a
Well, I
second.
move again.
Any other discussion? Public comments?
Good evening.
T-
Listening.
Tell us who you are and where you're from.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm Janelle Smiley from District 7.
Which is where some people don't know District 7.
It is West Fayetteville, over by the Quarry Mine area. Listening to the comments regarding the salaries is at best interesting and at worst horrifying. Our county has very limited reserves. If we have an emergency, if we have a disaster, we're in severe trouble. This court has said that it prides itself on fiscal responsibility. But it appears that the only thing that sets these four people apart is their relationship to the administration. It is the only thing that makes them different from those other county employees who got such de minimis raises. So I think by its very nature, this whole thing is political. And that's what's horrifying. It makes the court look dirty. And so I am asking the court to look ethical and proud and without rancor, to look moral. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smiley. Public comments.
Judge, Court. My name is Lou Reed Sharp. I live at 1739 Steel Road, Springdale or Tawnytown, Arkansas. And I just am asking for a point of clarification, because didn't the court approve like 2 or 3% increases? Were these amounts included in that, and then these were based on market values also? Or is this in addition to the 3% y'all you approved? This year, yeah. I mean, didn't the court approve raises of 2 or 3%? 3%.
This just your comments.
So I'm just asking if this is in addition to, or if these were included in the 3%.
That's what the JPs need to ponder. Thank you.
Because if the total budget was to hold all raises at 3%, then that should be aggregated across all of those departments and not just for select few. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comments. Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Judith Yanez. Yes. Patrick Deakins.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Yes. Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Chandra Washington. Eva Madison. No. Andrea Jenkins. No. Suki Hires. No. Sue Madison. No. Willie Lemon. Yes. Ann Harbison. Yes. Butch Pond. Yes. Lance Johnson.
Yes.
And Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
10.
All right, item 13.1 passes. Item 14.1, JP Bowman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lester, would you give us read this and give us an explanation about the bond issue and what's going on here?
Sure. Would you like for me to talk
it
about
first.
the issue first or read it first?
Well, why don't you read it first, then
Okay.
give us some discussion about
Okay.
it.
Item 14 is an ordinance calling a special election in Washington County, Arkansas on the question of issuing bonds under Amendment Number 62 to the Constitution of the State of Arkansas for the purpose of financing all or a portion of the cost of capital improvements, levying a new 1/4 of 1% sales and use tax for the purpose of retiring such bonds and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lester. You know, I tell you, looking at this program tonight, it became obvious to me we got some confusion in the way here, because we've got 3 ordinances here about this same thing. And this is one about the bonds. So, you know, I don't know how y'all feel about the bonds. I think that probably it's gonna cost us more money. I think I've heard numbers around $300,000 more to go ahead and do the bond issue versus going ahead and buying this equipment as we get the money in. And I think from what the committee has said about the radio purchases, that will be an ongoing thing. Will probably take the better part of a year. Is that right, Mr. Deming? Okay. So during that period of time, we're gonna get enough money in to pay for it and save that $300,000. So personally, I know we need to talk about this, because we need as a group to decide about doing a bond or doing it as you go. And so that's what this is all about. Personally, I disapprove of the bond. I think we need to go with pay-as-you-go, but we want to hear from everybody here, so that's my perspective on it.
All right. So
Brian, do you have any more perspective on that?
No, just to point out that the bond issue is this ordinance. If you look further back on the agenda, there are 2 ordinances, as a matter of fact, that would call the election and just do a sales and use tax for a set amount of time, and there would be no interest or anything to pay back.
Yep.
I will tell you that if you do go with the bond issue, one thing that you'll have to decide tonight, and it's not included because this court would have to vote on it, is exactly how much you're going to issue bonds for. For example, we know that the cost you're looking at on this project is $8.5 million. We'd want to include an additional $300,000 for the interest and costs, which would put you at 8.8. And then the question is, would you, whether or not you want to do 8.8 or a little bit more to have a little bit bigger buffer. Nonetheless, anything that was raised from this would absolutely have to be used only on this project.
Okay.
And so any extra money would just sit until needed for maintenance and operation of the project. So I just want to point
Okay,
that out.
okay. Okay, you know, it may sound weird that I'm bringing this forward. It's part of our responsibility for this committee. But personally, I would say we ought to not pass this ordinance and move on to the other ordinances we have relative to the radios. So I'll make a motion, we decline to accept this.
Well, this is only on this is on a second reading.
Right.
So if you don't make a motion to suspend the rules to move it to a third reading, it will be then on for a third reading next month.
Okay, all right, fine. Just move it on to third reading then, or move it on?
Well, you can go ahead and.
Motion to suspend.
Mo- All right, so we have a motion to suspend the rules,
Second.
move to a third reading.
Okay,
Okay. Council? Read it.
Vote on that.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? I think the ayes have it. All right, Councilor.
An ordinance calling a special election in Washington County, Arkansas on the question of issuing bonds under Amendment Number 62 to the Constitution of the State of Arkansas for the purpose of financing all or a portion of the cost of capital improvements, levying a new 1/4% sales and use tax for the purpose of retiring such bonds and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto.
okay, let me say one more time what Mr. Lester's already said. We're gonna have to add about $300,000 or more to the 8.5 million that we're talking about to pass this thing. So, here again, I feel that we should pass this up, but, I'm looking forward to getting the vote of this committee.
So we need a motion.
Making a motion that we decline to accept this.
Is that the, if it, yeah, I'm trying to think. It's gotta be a motion to,
What you
You
really
say
want to
yes.
do is make a motion to vote.
To
Because-
vote, okay.
Because you're
Yeah,
asking,
I
you're
thought we'd
asking,
already
you
done
read a
that.
third time,
Okay.
so technically, by operation of law, now comes time to vote. So
Okay.
you're just saying, hey,
you vote down, if
A
you don't
motion to
want.
vote, all right. Thank
So we
you.
got a motion to pass 14.1, just a vote, and the second by J.P. Ecke. Any other discussion? J.P. Madison.
I mean, we're actually voting on the ordinance, right?
That's
Okay.
correct.
So I'm really torn about this issue because I know that our emergency providers desperately need radios. I know we heard from who I consider to be my chief of police, Mike Reynolds, today, that he supports it. And I know that the folks working on the committee have worked very hard to get to this point. What's troubling me, though, is some comments made about we seem to be in a rush to do this, to get it on the ballot in March because the deal's gonna run out. And I don't know what this deal is. Where is the deal? Where is the deal where Motorola gives us a cutoff date? Where's the contract? Where are the terms? We've been given figures that range from 6 million to 8 million to 11 million. And before I can rush something through and put it on for a special election at a primary, when we don't expect the turnout that we have in the general, to me, I've got to really understand what the motivating factors are behind that hurry. And I haven't seen that. As the lawyer in the room, I want to see the contract that tells us what is going to happen if we don't do this in March. And I haven't seen that. And that is very not reassuring. So I think we need a lot more information on this. So I will not be supporting either set of ordinances tonight. Thank you, Judge.
J.P. Pond and then J.P. Lemming, and then J.P.
Just to avoid
Madison.
my own confusion, I believe Mr. Harvey Bowman, being the sponsor of this, is advising us to vote no on this. So, I
That's
think
my perspective on it. And
I
Mr.
believe
Lemming,
I believe I'll be taking Mr. Bowman's advice.
well,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Lemming has been on this committee, and he can fill us in a lot of details there. But I've talked to him extensively about the situation and heard from the committee a number of times. I think the key issue pushing this issue is the fact that one lightning strike and we're dead. So it's not a matter specifically in my mind about the deal as much as it is we're in a critical situation with radios. So we need to get this thing done and let them get started. So that's my perspective on the thing, and why should we add $300,000 to the total cost? Because the installation process is going to take the better part of a year anyway. so we'll be able to pay for the materials as they come in.
JP Madison, then JP Lemming.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I'd like to quote my grandmother on this. It seems to me as if we're buying a pig in a poke. This doesn't tell me what we're buying. It just says to give us the money. And I believe it was J.P. Yanez that said a few meetings ago, this to a voter doesn't give a voter any information. I mean, they're asked to approve capital improvements. Not saying what those capital improvements are. We know we need the radios, we need some towers. We're absolutely at a crisis point with communicating during an emergency, perhaps. So we know that, but we're not telling the voters that. We're saying, trust us, that's what we'll do. And I think voters deserve to know where every penny's going, and this does not do that. Thank you.
JP Lemming.
Well, I just can't believe that y'all don't have the information that's been out here for everybody to look at. It's hard for me to believe that. I mean, this committee has dealt with this for a year. We've talked about it. Everybody has talked about it. We've sent paperwork out, and everybody knows what we're asking for. And yes, if this don't pass, it don't matter what we're asking for because we can't pay for any of it. So what Harvey wants to do is correct, and let's move on. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, we had a motion, second by JP Ecke. Public comments? Ms. Patty? Oh,
Judge.
Hold on, JP Pond and then JP Johnson.
I do have one more comment. I've never had this experience before. We're sitting here in disagreement on an ordinance that we're all going to vote no on. So we're disagreeing on how come we're going to vote no. I'm amazed. I'll never see this again, I hope. Thank you.
JP Johnson.
Mike.
Is the motion to not pass the ordinance? So a yes vote is to kill it, tell me what we're voting on.
We are voting on the passage of the ordinance. So every time you vote on an ordinance, it's the affirmative act that matters. And so you've got to have a simple majority of the entire Quorum Court to pass an ordinance after a third reading. And so you're voting on the affirmative act of passing this ordinance. So if you do not want to pass this ordinance, I would advise you to vote no.
That makes sense. Public comments? Public comment, Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman. No. Judith Yanez. No. Patrick Deakins. No. Lisa Ecke. No. Sam Duncan.
No.
Shonda Washington. Eva Madison. No. Andrea Jenkins. No. Suki Hires. No. Sue Madison. No. Willie Lemming. No. Ann Harbison. No. Butch Pond. No. Lance Johnson. No. Susan Cunningham.
So it fails. That item 14-1. Item 15-1, JP Harbison.
Item 15 is an ordinance recognizing additional revenues of $54,994 in the Law Enforcement Grant Fund and appropriating the amount of $54,994 from the Law Enforcement Grant Fund to the SCAP 2018 budget for 2019.
Second.
It's only on the second reading, Ms. JP Harbison.
Move to suspend the rules and move to the third and final reading.
There's a motion to move to suspend the rules and move to a third reading. A second by JP Ecke. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? No. Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman. Yes. Judith Yanez. No. Patrick Deakins. Yes. Lisa Ecke. Yes. Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Shonda Washington. Eva Madison.
No.
Andrea Jenkins.
No.
Suki Hires.
No.
Sue Madison.
No.
Willie Lemming. Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Was that
That's
9?
9.
Okay, that's 9. So it will just move on to the next meeting.
Next month.
I mean, to the third, next month.
You know, This is nonsensical to me. You want,
JP Eki, what, are you talking about the one you just voted on? Are you talking about the one we just voted on?
about the budget, oh,
About 15.1?
somebody,
Are you
go on,
talking about-
Judge.
Okay. 16 was the consent agenda items minus the first one, item 1. JP Harbison.
Brian Lester, would you please read the titles, I guess, on the consent agenda?
Item 2 is a line item transfer request from Judge Zimmerman. Item 3 is a line item transfer request from the Department of Emergency Management. Item 4 is an ordinance appropriating the total amount of $534,826.92 from unappropriated reserves in the road budget to various line items in the road department budget for 2019. Item 5 is an ordinance reducing $414,702 in the asphalt line item in the road department budget for 2020 and appropriating said $414,702 to the other professional services line item in the additional Fuel Tax Act 416 2019 fund for 2020. And item 6 is an ordinance transferring $10,000 within the professional services category in the JDC budget for 2019.
I move that we pass the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion to pass the consent agenda items as read by the counselor and seconded by, who's that, JP Jenkins? Discussion? Public comments?
So this appropriation, I don't think we've even created that fund yet in the 2020 budget.
Which one?
Number 5, we're appropriating money for a fund that has not yet been,
What?
has not yet been.
Oh, so on your number 5 on the consent agenda, the ordinance reducing the 412 on the asphalt line to put into the road departments. You guys have number 5?
Okay, that was the fuel tax
Right.
line item.
Make sure, is that the one?
That's correct, but you haven't yet created the line item to which you are transferring money.
Because it is.
It's on- it's
another
item 22.
Okay, so we'll have to withdraw number 5, and I make a motion then, that we pass 2, 3, 4, and 6 in the, consent agenda.
All right, so I have a motion to approve on the consent agenda item 2, 3.
Let me make,
Okay.
can I make a suggestion?
Yes,
I would suggest that you suspend the rules to amend the agenda and that you move item 5 right behind item number 22. And then you vote to take the rest of the then you vote on the consent agenda.
so that'd be 21A or B or whatever.
22.
22B.
22B, because it needs to come after that.
Restate that one again, Counselor.
I would suggest that you move to suspend the rules to amend the budget, or amend the agenda,
Consent agenda.
consent agenda, and move item 5
To 22B.
to 22B, and do that first,
Okay,
and then come back to the issue of
The consent agenda.
consent agenda.
okay, then I move on the consent agenda number 5 to 22B, for further consideration.
All right, so I have a motion to move item 5, suspend the rules.
22B.
And you got a second, who was that? JP Madison. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, so, all right, now we have that one moved to 22B. Now we got a motion to
Pass.
pass the consent agenda.
The consent agenda.
So, and a motion and a second by JP Madison. Any other discussion? Public comments? Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez. Patrick Deakins. Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Shonda Washington. Eva Madison. Andrea Jenkins. Sugie Hires. Sue Madison. Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham. It passes.
All right, that item passes, the consent agenda item passes. Item 17-1, JP Pine.
Yes, Mr. Lester. Mr. Lester, could you read 17.1?
17 is an emergency ordinance setting holiday compensation for certain employees and repealing ordinance numbers 1993-36, ordinance number 1994-3, ordinance number 1995-38, and ordinance number 2012-71.
I move to pass 17.1.
It's an emergency ordinance.
I got a motion to pass 17.1. Who was the second? Second by JP Madison. JP Sue Madison. Any discussion? Any public comments? Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez. Patrick Deakins. Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan. Shonda Washington. Eva Madison. Andrea Jenkins. Suki Hires. Sue Madison. Willie Lemming. Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham. And it passes.
All right, so item, what was that, 17-1 passes. Item 18-1, JP Pine.
18.1, Mr. Lester, could you read, please?
It's an ordinance establishing the computation of time used for non-exempt employee leave.
Move to pass.
So this is on the first reading.
I see. Move to suspend the rules and read the second time by title only.
Got a motion to suspend the rule and move to a third reading, right?
Second.
To suspend the rules? I think so.
JP Madison.
So there needs to be an amendment made to this, and so if we move it to second, third reading, we'll have to start over. So can I make my amendment first?
Yes.
Okay, so I spoke with someone in the sheriff's office about what the purpose of 18.1 was for. So apparently our handbook only, as the ordinance states, calculates holiday and leave time at these 8-hour increments. But then the sheriff's office regularly has people that are scheduled to work in excess of 8-hour shifts. And so if they work a 10-hour or a 12-hour shift, they're then required to use vacation time to make up for the additional hours over 8. So apparently in previous years, we had just been kind of fudging that. And then when the road department went to 10-hour shifts, legislative audit caught it and said, you can't fudge this. This is not, you're doing a practice that's not consistent with what your handbook says. And so that's why the ordinance is prepared, is to fix that. And then I was concerned, and I made the suggestion, because we didn't understand the history of why we needed the ordinance in committee, to make sure it was non-exempt employees, because exempt employees don't really have scheduled hours. Well, then I was told I was wrong, that there are sheriff's department employees who are managers, who are exempt from overtime, but they are also scheduled to work 10 and 12-hour shifts. And so what I need to do is strike non-exempt from the title, from the 3 whereas clauses, and from Article 1. But to not confuse the issue with, because most other exempt employees don't work scheduled hours. They are come and go, and we don't keep track of their hours. So what I would like to then add is to the 3rd whereas clause, it would read, the Quorum Court needs to establish the way in which holiday and leave time shall be calculated for employees who are scheduled to work in excess of 8 hours per day. And then for Article 1, it would say holiday and leave time shall be calculated based on the regular non-overtime hours worked and scheduled daily. I'm hoping that the sheriff agrees I did this right. Okay, so that just ensures that, well, and Mr. Lester, I hope I'm getting this right, but the point is that people who are hourly employees who are scheduled to work in excess of 8 hours will get a holiday in excess of 8 hours. And then exempt employees who are likewise scheduled to work in excess of 8 hours will get their holiday time the same way.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
Just for me to understand, the way it was, if we were just to take out non-exempt, I'm just curious, what problem would that cause?
Well, I think the challenge is that if you're, let's say you're a exempt manager in the county, you just work, in the collector's office, I don't know, not picking on anybody, but, and you somehow are working 16-hour days because things are really busy and it's tax time. I don't think that should open up the option for that person to come and say, now I get 16 hours of holiday time. That's the issue. So we want to pay people or want to reward people for holiday and leave time based on the hours they're scheduled to work. So if you're scheduled 8 hours, which would be what technically an exempt person should be scheduled for, you would be expected to work 8 hours a day. But you might work more, you might work less. So I don't know if that answers your question. So if we take out non-exempt, I think it just creates a gray area where employees might be able to say, well, I worked, 12 hours every day last week, so now I want 12-hour holidays.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
J.P. Ponder, are you following?
Yes, and I think I saw a nod from the sheriff and a nod from the county attorney, so I accept this as a friendly amendment.
And that's our animal shelter, our juvenile detention center, and
Yeah,
sheriff's
no,
office, so yeah, you're
The
right.
intent would be for
Yeah.
anybody that's scheduled to work in excess of 8 hours, that they would be given leave time
All right,
commensurate with that.
so we have amended, so,
No.
all right, so this, either between you two, can we go back and read the ordinance as it will be reflected? Can you read that one?
Yeah, if JP Madison can say add and remove
Yeah.
based on where it is, and then I'll try to write it down if you
Well,
want.
I've got it kind of scribbled down, so just strike every reference to non-exempt, so the title would read, an ordinance establishing the computation of time used for employee leave. And then the only change in the whereas, the first two whereas clauses would be to strike non-exempt. The third whereas clause would strike non-exempt, but add, shall be calculated for employees who are scheduled to work in excess of 8 hours per day.
Shall be calculated,
That's what I'm worried is not right.
Shall we calculate, say that again, shall be calculated?
Shall be calculated for all employees who are scheduled to work in excess of 8 hours per day.
would
I don't think that's right.
calculated for all employees as scheduled? Because their schedule will be reflected, so if they
Actually,
do.
let's just leave the whereas clause the same. So just the title and the whereas clauses remain the same except striking exempt, or excuse me, non-exempt. Article 1, the change will be holiday and leave time shall be calculated based on the regular non-overtime number of hours worked and scheduled daily by an employee. I have to add an
Get that
and.
last one.
Mr. Judge, point
Yes.
of clarification or order. I would like to see this go back to Personnel Committee and have it written in a way we all understand what it is. Just writing this out on the cuff is a little confusing, and we don't have it before, so we don't know what exactly we're voting for. And I think next time, if there is a conflict with the handbook due to the sheriff's raises and the STEP program and all of that, if we could come to committee first and hammer out all those details, then that way we all know exactly what we're voting for. This way, it's just flying from the seat of your pants, and I just don't have clarification. So I just move that we move this back to committee.
J.P. Madison.
If we move it back to committee and start over, that means that these employees will continue to have to take vacation time to use a holiday day. And so we're trying to fix this quickly.
Yeah,
It came to committee, the problem was that at committee, the reason we needed the ordinance wasn't explained to us. And so it was explained to us after the fact.
I think it still needs to get
And
explained
so,
to us.
well, we're just doing a disservice to our employees, because when an employee needs to take their holiday day, if they're scheduled to work a 12-hour shift, legislative audit is requiring them to take their 8-hour holiday day and then use 4 hours of vacation to be able to take that day.
And I would add, just for your knowledge as well, I understand your argument, and needing to get this clarified. The other issue is, our year ends on the 31st, and legislative audit will look at what we did this year. And if we don't make this change before the end of the year, the county will get dinged again on not doing this correctly. And so there is a little bit of urgency on getting this done before the end of the year, so that it takes care of that problem and is one less thing that they're looking at to say that we've not done correctly.
And then we would have, I guess, New Year's Day, which would be in the new year. And so you're crossing 2 years. And so again, if we get dinged, it'll be for 2019 not correcting. And that would be the audit that they'll be working on. And we wouldn't have corrected it until 2020.
Okay, so if I could have just so I can understand this correctly, this was not explained to us during Personnel Committee. It was,
I'm trying, when did it come up? I can't even remember. Okay. So then, with that being said, I hear you, J.P. Ecke, and J.P. Pine brought it up, and he's okay with it being a friendly amendment. Can we at least have
Sure.
the county attorney read it through one more time?
if we could do that, so that way we
Then
understand
okay, all right.
all the points.
Thank you.
It's really just striking all the non-exempts and adding in.
Okay. So I'll read the entire ordinance. Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Washington, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance establishing the computation of time used for employee leave. Whereas, the Washington County Handbook currently requires that holiday and leave time for employees be calculated at 8 hours per day. And whereas all employees work a standard, or not all employees work a standard 8-hour day shift. And whereas the Quorum Court needs to establish the way in which holiday and leave time shall be calculated for all employees. Now therefore, be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas, Article 1, holiday and leave time shall be calculated based on the regular, non-overtime number of hours worked and scheduled daily by an employee. Article 2, any ordinance in conflict herewith is hereby amended to reflect the changes made by this ordinance.
J.P. Ecke. Loud, just talk loud.
Thank you. I would like for this to be added to the employee handbook, an addendum to what we're saying, because it is not in the handbook. So whenever we meet with personnel, if we could add this to that, because it would make it, because our handbook is ordinance. And this will be ordinance, but I think it's a point of clarification for everybody.
Perfect.
This would be great.
Good.
Am I missing anything?
You're good.
Okay, thank you.
J.P. Pine, so you good with the amendment?
Yes, sir.
All right, do we have a second? Any other discussion? Any public
No,
comments?
this is gonna be on, this is just
Oh,
an
it's-
amendment, just an amendment.
Oh, that's right, this is only on amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, so the amendment passes. All right, now J.P. Pine.
Yes, move to pass as amended. Move to suspend the rules and put it on third and final reading.
Second.
Oh, it's,
Go on to second
okay,
reading.
second reading, okay.
All right, got a motion to suspend the rules and move to the second reading.
All
A
right.
second by J.P. Lemming. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, moves on to second reading.
Move to,
Let me
Just
read
by
it.
title only now.
An ordinance establishing the computation of time used for employee leave.
move to suspend the rules and put this on the third and final reading.
We got a motion to suspend the rules and go to a third reading. Who's the? J.P. Hires, J.P. Hires. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, so that passes.
An ordinance establishing the computation of time used for employee leave.
Any discussion? Is this the move to pass?
Move to pass.
We got a motion to move to pass, a second by J.P. Madison. Any other discussion? Any public comments? Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez. Patrick Deacons. Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan. Shonda Washington. Eva Madison. Andrea Jenkins. Suki Hires. Sue Madison. Willie Lemming. Ann Harbison. Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham. That passes.
What was that number?
15, all.
So it all passes. That motion passes. I am going to go ahead and leave. I'm going to ask J.P. Washington to go ahead and sit in my chair. You still have to be elected by your counterparts to finish out our meeting.
Wait, can I
I
make a
make a motion to,
I would make the motion that J.P. Washington sit in the judge's place due to his
Second.
departure.
we got a motion and a second by J.P. Pond. All in favor? Those opposed? J.P. Pond, Judge Washington. Merry Christmas, Court. County.
Merry Christmas.
Sorry for your loss. The seat is high.
Oh, it's fine, she's fine, I got it, I got it.
You got it? Okay, good.
So we're on item 19.
Yeah, you just, item 19, you call her, J.P. Pond.
Item 19, J.P. Pond.
Yes, Mr. Lester. Thank you, Madam Chair.
An emergency ordinance adopting the taxability of clothing uniforms, the clothing uniform policy for Washington County.
And this is a emergency ordinance, so move to pass 19.1.
Second.
We have a motion.
Okay, we have a motion to pass item 19 with a second by J.P. Hardison. Is there any discussion? Justice Madison.
Thank you, Madam Judge. I think there were some questions that came up at committee just about some of the emphasis in the, we weren't sure, and Mr. Lester, you weren't there. I don't know. I know this is something I think that's been required by legislative audit, and we were just confused about some of the italics and bold and things like that, because to us that signifies an amendment,
Right.
like an edit. So could you just help us with this?
Sure, that was unintentional, and I completely understood when I was told that y'all had the questions. It was just for emphasis, that's why I changed them to italics, so that there is no underlying. This is a new ordinance, it's something you've not passed before, so we're not really amending anything, we're really just establishing a policy based on the rules and regulations provided to us or promulgated to us by the IRS.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Are there any public comments? Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez. Patrick Deacons. Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan. Shonda Washington.
Yes.
Oh, Eva Madison. Andrea Jenkins. Suki Hires. Sue Madison. Willie Lemming. Ann Harbison. Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham. It passes.
Okay, that passes. Item 20, J.P. Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Lester, would you read this, please, sir?
An ordinance providing for the levy of a 1/4 of 1% sales and use tax within Washington County, Arkansas for 12 months and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto.
Thank you, sir. You know, this is the focus of paying for the radios. And this is just a matter of something we've got to do. And then the next ordinance coming up is about the special election. So I think we need to go ahead and pass this to enforce the fact that we got to have a 1/4% sales tax to cover the radio costs.
Second.
I'm recommending we pass 20.1.
This is on a first reading, and even though it kind of sounds like it's an ordinance type appropriation, state law requires that you actually read these 3 times, so you will have to suspend the rules and move it to a
Okay.
third time if you
All
want
right.
to pass it tonight.
I'd move that we move this to second reading with due pass.
Suspend the rules?
Yep, suspend the rules and yes.
Jenkins, seconded.
Just take a vote.
Somebody give
Okay.
me a second.
Justice Jenkins
Okay,
did.
good.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to suspend the rules and move to a second reading that was made by Justice Bowman and seconded by Justice Jenkins. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I make a motion with
Let me-
third reading.
Let me read it real quick.
I'm sorry, suspend the rules.
Hold on. An ordinance providing for the levy of a 1/4 of 1% sales and use tax within Washington County, Arkansas for 12 months and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto.
Okay. I make a motion, we pass this.
To suspend the rules?
Suspend the rules and pass this, yes. Or third.
To
is it-
third reading.
That was the second, okay. Third reading then, please.
Okay, we have a motion to suspend the rules and move to a third reading by Justice Bowman, seconded by Justice Jenkins. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes to third reading.
Sorry, let me pull it back up. Sorry.
Third reading? I thought that
An
was-
ordinance providing for the levy of a 1/4 of 1% sales and use tax within Washington County, Arkansas for 12 months and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto.
Thank you, Mr. Lester. I make a motion, we pass this.
We have a motion on the floor to pass item 20 that was seconded by Justice Jenkins. Is there any discussion? Okay, JP Deacons?
Thank you very much for being recognized. I continue to speak out against the levying of this tax. I think that the responsibility of the court to go to the people with a tax is one of the utmost responsibilities that we have. I want to echo some of my colleagues that said earlier, we're really passing this tax on the front end with no details on the back. And I still want to commend the radio committee for all the work that they've done. I know that we have their needs, their demonstrated needs, and we have those listed out. However, we have no contract that I've been provided from Motorola. We have no details about how this will proceed, and we have no details of how we'll spend this money once collected, and that really, really concerns me, to take on that responsibility to the people without having the details on the back end illustrated out. So I will be voting against this. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Okay, Justice Jenkins?
Thank you. I just want to say that the work that these guys have been putting into this and the research that they've done and the contracts that they've brought to us, they need this to pass. We need to get this on the ballot yesterday. And to put it off today is going to continue a process of worrying when that next lightning strike is going to hit. I feel like we can trust this committee of how many? How many?
Sir, John, how many's on the committee?
18? Oh, eight. Okay, so we have a committee of 8 from all over the county, correct? And these are our sheriff and chief of police and emergency management. I really feel like they're coming to us after struggling for years to get this done, and we really need to trust their input and get this on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Jenkins. Is there any discussion against the motion? Okay, Justice Ecke?
I don't know if it's against, but it's just a comment. I support Mr. Luther and the emergency staff, and I'm conflicted with this because I know what increase in sales tax does to lower income families. I see it, I've witnessed it before I even joined the court, when the sales tax would go up. The first people that would not eat were women, the mothers, because they would eat just maybe some French fries for lunch, because that's all they could afford, because the rest of their money that they're working hard for is going to go towards their family. I've always been against increasing sales tax. There's got to be another vehicle that we can use to raise revenue. I know it's difficult, but what it does to a gallon of milk, I see it, I witness it. They're my employees, they're my customers, and it hurts them and it harms them. So I am conflicted with this. And I don't like raising sales tax. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Ecke. J.P. Sue Madison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to clarify with the county attorney so the public is clear. 20-19 on page 20.1 is for the county to levy the tax that we're then going to refer to the voters in the next. There's not 2 half-cent sales tax. It almost sounds that way, but I just want everybody to know that
It's 1 quarter-cent sales tax.
one is, quarter. One is the authorizing the levy, and then the other one is asking the voters to. Thank you.
That's correct.
Okay. J.P. Deacons.
I just want to clarify, make no mistake, I don't question the needs of our first responders, our sheriff's deputies. I don't question the work that the radio committee did to get to this point to tell us what they need. I question the back end. I question our work. If everybody will observe us over the past year, there's a theme that runs through this court, and it's that we get ourselves backed into the corner under duress of time, and we make underinformed decisions under the pressure of we've got to get this done immediately. And that really bothers me. And it really, really bothers me when we're going to go raise taxes to the tune of $10 million on the people of Washington County. That is my concern. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. J.P. Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that what we have to keep in front of us is that this is a sales tax that sunsets after 24 months. And those people, the underprivileged people that you speak of, J.P. Ecke, they need the services just as much as any of us of these emergency management. And if something happens in one of their homes, these are the people who are serving them as well. This is a tax that we're taking to the voters to decide. We just need to move it there. We are not levying it here today. It's going to the ballot box. And that's where people can just determine if that's what they want to do for our community. I'm speaking on behalf of constituents. I'm speaking on behalf of the law enforcement agencies that I have gone and sat down with, multiple, and spoke to about this issue and took notes. So I just feel like we really need to keep focus and make that clear to the public that this is a sunset sales tax of 0.25%. 12 months, I said 24 earlier, I meant 12, sorry. 12 months and done. It's for the safety of our citizens, and that should be number one. Thank you.
Is there any discussion in opposition? Okay, Justice Bowman, I'm sorry, opposition? Okay. Justice Bowman?
Okay, I guess number one, this process has been going on for a year and a half. We've been hearing about the urgent need. We also had a lightning strike recently, took out one of the terminals out there on an outlying basis. And we heard Mr. Luther talk about, thank God it wasn't the one here, the primary. And that's where we're on it. And to believe that we're rushing into this thing after a year and a half study, buffaloes me. I hate taxes as much as anybody. Washington County has already have excessive sales taxes, excessive. But we don't have $8 million. There is no way we can rustle up $8 million out of our budget to pay for the system without some kind of revenue increase. So we've got to go ahead and respond to an emergency here, and I do believe it's an emergency. to get these doggone radios ordered and get them on the way. So that's why I'm very strongly in favor of this, even in the face of the tax. And we've heard from the radio department and from the radio group studying this thing, details about exactly how many radios we're talking about. Details about towers and locations and everything else. So to think we're not getting the information, I think is short-sighted. And believe me, before this thing goes to the voters with a special election, there's going to be all kinds of details shared with the public about what we're voting for. So that's why I'm very strongly in support of this thing. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Bowman. J.P. Johnson?
Yeah, I don't like the way this is coming down for a minute, but I tell you what I absolutely know. The judge is going to make the deal with Motorola, and he's going to find out what the best deal is the day he's sitting across the table when he can make a deal. And absent the ability to pay for the radios, all it is a conversation at that point. So I'm going to vote for this, and then we're going to have to depend on the judge and John Luther and his people to go make the best deal for Washington County, because Motorola has no motivation to make a deal today because we can't make a deal with Motorola. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Johnson. Justice Yanez?
Thank you for that point, J.P. Johnson. My concern is, I've heard contracts. I don't think I've seen any contracts for Motorola, which makes sense now that J.P. Johnson said this. Because if we take this to the voters, we need to have public records of the contracts, of why we're rushing this. But what he said now makes sense. And I wish this would have been said since the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Yanez. Justice Lemming?
You will get that contract, but we got to do that first. And on Patrick's behalf, we are pushed in the corner, and we are pressured, and you can thank the state of Arkansas for that, and you can thank Motorola for that. That's why we're in a hurry, because they have pushed us there. And if you don't allow this to happen, it's going to cost you a couple of more $1 million, and it's because of Motorola and because of the games that's all being played in the legislature end of this on the state. That's been pushed on us and been forced on us. We have no choice. We got to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you. Justice Sue Madison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's no doubt that sales taxes are regressive, but we've been spending our other money kind of like it was water, if you've noticed tonight. So we've spent ourselves into this situation, more or less being forced to rely on a sales tax. I'd point out that the benefits of paying for all of this will inure to everybody in the county. It's not as if just the rich people are going to have emergency responders at their door. And our rural firefighters are truly a cross-section of people across the county. Out in the county, you'll find the lowest paid farm workers, lowest paid physical plant people at the university, along with college professors that are all volunteering in the rural fire departments. So there is a benefit to all the people of Washington County if we do this. But I am going to have some heartburn over the next one. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Madison. J.B. Harbison?
I just want to say how important this is to this county. It is important. No, we don't like sales tax, but we have had people that have done the research. We as individuals on this court may not have done the research ourselves, but that research has been done. And, you know, I just encourage all of you to vote for this. I don't like a sales tax either, but it sunsets in 12 months, and it benefits everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion?
Yes, ma'am. I don't like any kind of tax. I just don't. I can sit here and pick on anybody that's ever voted for one. Just kick myself in the rear end. But that isn't what I was wanting to talk about. I remember, I'm just kind of recalling one time about an old boy that was out in the middle of the night, and it was pitch dark. There wasn't even a moon, clouds out, the ground covered with ice. And all he was trying to do was get down the hill to the nearest town. He couldn't get there without stopping and cutting some trees and dragging them out of the way. Cutting them in small enough pieces where he could drag them by hand, so he could get down there and tell people what that road was like. You know, get up here and help us get this cleared in case somebody needs an ambulance. To climb out and be cutting on this tree that fell across the road, and you're hearing other trees exploding and falling and crashing because of the load of ice. And it would have been really nice to have had a radio, just in case he wasn't close enough to that truck and the next one come down and fall on him. There's what these first responders do, what our law enforcement does, our fire departments. It's unbelievable if you've never experienced it. I'm going to vote for this to allow the voters, to allow these people to have the equipment they need to assure our safety. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Pond. J.P. Duncan.
Just, so last year the court raised taxes, raised the millage rate, and then this year we're bringing another sales tax increase, and so it just seems like we spend whatever we bring. Obviously this particular tax would be specific for the project, but I just don't see how year after year the court can continue to bring things and continue to spend and spend and spend. So I will be voting against this ordinance.
Thank you, J.P. Duncan. You've only spoken once. You sure can.
You know, one thing has not been mentioned, I guess, I'm not as good storyteller as Mr. Pond, but in the southern part of the county, there's a large areas down there that are unreached, that they can't get radio communications. And this system is going to dramatically increase coverage of Washington County. And I think that's a very important element to be considered. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, J.P. Bowman. There was a call. There's a call for the question. I'm sorry. Are there any public comments?
Hi, Sarah Moore, Fayetteville, Arkansas. I wanted to applaud J.P. Deacons on what he mentioned earlier. I agree. I know there's been a lot of behind the scenes where the folks that need to use this out in the field have had conversations and discussion. But whenever, as a citizen that will go to the polls and look at this, I really want to know that the due diligence was done up front to actually bring all the specific details of what you wanted to raise my taxes for. So I would love to see the actual specifics and details before we go forward trying to put this onto the vote. I know earlier the judge shared with us about how we had ranked as like the top county in the state with our transparency. And I would ask for you to be incredibly transparent in this process so those meetings that happen behind closed doors with those individuals actually comes into the public before we go forward with any vote to actually spend our money. I'd like to know what our money's being spent on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Diana Gallagher, West Fayetteville. As a nurse and a former EMS personnel, there is no question that our public is not safe without the appropriate equipment, nor are our first responders. There are issues here, clearly, but we have to have the equipment to ensure safety. You had no problem voting for salary increases on people who had already accepted a salary. Let's give the citizens of Washington County a chance to make a decision based on their own well-being. Thank you.
My name is William Terrell. I live in East Fayetteville, and I am a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and I'm going to tell you now, whether you live in Washington County, Benton County, Carroll County, everybody wants radios, everybody needs radios, and there will always be a need, but we keep, it seems like, every year wanting to increase the tax, and another half cent, 2 cents, is just going to be hurting your citizens. I mean, Benton County's got 1%, Madison County's got 2%, and here soon, if we keep it our current rate, we'll be at that 2%. And that means we're just losing business. Because people don't want to open up businesses in Washington County. It's just basic economics. If you keep increasing the tax, because who's going to want to shop here? Think about it, folks. That's all I ask. I would ask that you vote no.
Thank you. Are there any other?
Yes, ma'am. I'd love to get a few minutes, and I don't know whether you'd rather have me on public comments or you guys want to bring me back up here formally, because it's kind of frustrating that we've worked a year and a half and nobody knows anything. It's $4 a person a month over a 1 year period. $4. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to probably get emotional. I look back in the room back there and I see people that risk their lives every day on your behalf and your constituents' behalf. I heard the radio traffic a week ago Saturday night. I responded to that call. I've cried over that call. I've cried with my peers. It hurts me. Our people risk their lives every day on behalf of 203,000 citizens in this county. They have asked you to put to the voters, 203,000 people, the ability to get a yes or a no on whether they need an emergency services that can respond to their needs and adequately talk. I have never come to this court with any more passion than I come tonight. But I'm asking you to do the right thing, and that is to move it to the voters that you represent. Whether it's an increase in taxes that we hate or whether it's an increase in taxes that we like, we do not like to be unsafe. No one does. My family is affected by this personally if something happens at Farmington Schools and my son has a peanut allergy reaction and those folks can't go help him. I can promise you I have some people in my mind that I will hold responsible. I get up in the middle of the night, just like those folks, and we go out there and we don't ask any more than anyone else to do our jobs, but we ask for adequate equipment. This gives the people in the community the ability to say yes or no. All you have to do is give them the right to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, can you please state your name for the record?
Oh, that's Sean Lieber. He's our Director of Emergency Management.
Good evening again. I'm still Jim Gallagher, and I live in West Fayetteville. I listened to this conversation, and it kind of concerns me. I'm a retired firefighter. I've worked for Weddington for 19 and a half years, I think. In order for me to really get my message across, I would have to turn all the lights out in here, and we would have to pretend it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and this room is full of smoke, and there's supposed to be a baby in here somewhere, and I gotta find them. I can promise you, you go into these buildings, no matter how much experience you have, no matter how many times you've done it, it scares the hell out of you. Why? Because you have no contact with the outside world. The only thing you hope for is that your radio is gonna work. These people aren't asking for a lot, but I promise you they give you a lot. We need to give them the equipment they need to do their job. Before I came here, I used to work with the Dallas Fire Department. I thought I worked for the best fire department in the world. And then I came up here and I worked with these volunteers. And I promise you they are second to none. None of them, from the youngest rookie to the most experienced chief we have in this county. Those people in Dallas are not, these people here are not second to none. Nobody, not even Dallas Fire Department. Just give them the equipment they need to help. Ask the voters for their wisdom. We're not asking you to levy the tax. It costs a certain amount of money to run this place. And the idea that we're going to scrimp and save and twist and turn to try to save a few more cents here and there, how much do you think that baby's life is worth? We need to get these people to work. We need to give them the equipment to do it. We're not giving them anything else. Give them the equipment, please.
My name is Lou Reed Sharp. I'm from Tawnytown, Arkansas, and I just want to say I've been coming to these meetings a couple of years now, and J.P. Lemming and his committee they've done a phenomenal amount of work and research on the need for our volunteer fire departments to have these radio systems, and the radio systems need to work with the existing radio systems when towns have already spent money to upgrade their equipment. I mean, I've learned a lot, but I also know that down in Cane Hill and Uniontown and Evansville and in that Ozark National Forest, you don't have cell phone service. Hogeye. I mean, there's Strickler. I mean, you just you need those radio systems, and all the citizens who've commented, I mean, you've got to give people the tools to do their jobs. And I have no doubt that this Quorum Court and the justices will look over all of those contracts and make sure we're spending our money appropriately. I have no doubt you all do that all day long. I think we need to give our rural communities the tools and equipment they need to keep their citizens safe. It's a long ways from Lincoln, Arkansas to Fayetteville. But we've got to be able to communicate. And the committee's done a good job this last 2 years that I've been involved in just paying attention a little bit. So thank you, Justice Lemming.
Good evening. My name's Rick Shepard. I'm the volunteer fire chief at Sunset. We're 8 miles east of Winslow. You guys, if you haven't been on a fire department, you don't understand. When your pager goes off, it might be your neighbor, it might be your mom, it might be your dad, brother, sister. When you're in somebody's living room doing CPR and you can't talk on your radio because you have no reception. You can't call out on your cell phone because you have no reception. Until you've been in that position, you don't know. When you're there, you and 2 other guys, and you just don't, the lost feeling. You have no communication with anyone. So I don't like tax. I'm sure anybody that does, there's something wrong with them. But this is something the rural fire departments, the county needs. I mean, the committee, they've worked hard, they've worked long hours, they've researched it. I tried to go buy a handset for one of my new firefighters, and I was told, I can't sell you one. So what? I'm just supposed to say, okay, well, your pager goes off and just go. That's what we're looking at in the department. And I'm just one of the voices. There's several other departments out there that they have the same problem I have. Where we're at, once you drop off the top of the hill, you might or you might not get reception on your cell phone. I have 2 cell phones. I have AT&T and Verizon. And half the time I don't have service. But when you've got an individual laid out on the floor doing CPR on them, and you're trying to find out the status of Central EMS or they're trying to find you or whatever. I mean, it's just, this is something that the county needs. Guys, just seriously think about it long and hard, please, because we need it. Thank you.
Lori Marshall, Springdale, Arkansas. I'm a former first responder many years ago, but I do understand the need for new equipment. I also want to bring back to the attention of the JPs, the fact that this would be a vote that's being taken on by your constituents. This is not a choice for you to spend county money. This is us spending our money to do things that we think is important in our county. And it's ironic to me that, that this court is willing to spend county money without asking permission of the voters, but now you're fussing about asking the voters whether we can spend our own money. And I think you need to think about that real hard.
Thank you. The public comments have ended. Okay, Ms. Patty?
Did you shut me off?
The public comments is for 12 minutes, and so we've exceeded the time that is allotted.
Give me some time, will you?
Okay, sorry, they'll just say.
All right.
Let's vote.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Judith Yanez. Patrick Deacons. Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan. Shonda Washington.
Yes.
Eva Madison. Andrea Jenkins. Suki Hires. Sue Madison. Willie Lemming.
Hell yes.
Ann Harbison. Butch Pond. Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham. This
It
ordinance
passes. Item 21, Justice Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, Mr. Lester, would you read this, please?
I'll remind you, this is on a first reading. An ordinance calling a special election in Washington County, Arkansas on the question of levying a countywide 1/4 of 1% sales and use tax for 12 months and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto.
Thank you, Mr. Lester. I guess I turned it off. After hearing from our citizens, I think we better go ahead and give them a chance to say what they want. So I'm gonna, hey, is this on first, second reading or what?
First reading.
First reading. All right, I'm gonna make a motion. We move this on to second reading.
Okay, there's a motion to suspend the rules and advance to a second reading by Justice Bowman, seconded by Justice Ecke. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Now I'd like to make a motion, we move it on.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, go ahead.
An ordinance calling a special election in Washington County, Arkansas on the question of levying a countywide 1/4 of 1% sales and use tax for 12 months and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto.
Thank you, sir. I make a motion that we move it on to the third reading.
There's a motion to suspend the rules and advance to a third reading by J.P. Bowman, seconded by Justice Hires.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Lester?
An ordinance calling a special election in Washington County, Arkansas on the question of levying a countywide 1/4 of 1% sales and use tax for 12 months and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto.
Thank you, sir. I make a motion, we pass this.
There's a motion on the floor to pass item 21 by J.P. Bowman, seconded by J.P. Pond. Is there any discussion? J.P. Sue Madison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Between now and the time this gets on the ballot, I think we need, in fact, I think we owe it to the voters to be much more specific about how we're going to spend this money. This is a very general, trust me, kind of proposal on this ballot. Now, we know what we all think it's going to be spent on and what it better be spent on, but I want even more specifics than that. I want to know exactly what it's being spent on. We had an opportunity to go with the AWIN system back when Huckabee was governor after 9/11. And I was shocked when I found out Washington County chose not to. I couldn't fathom that we hadn't joined AWIN back then. We should have. It would have been cheaper. I want to make sure all these radios are compatible with each other. I've heard talk of the county buying one kind of radio and rural firefighters buying another kind. I think we need to make sure all these radios are going to function to the same level and provide the same coverage and the same service. So there are still some unanswered questions about this issue in my mind, but not enough to make me, well, I have thought long and hard about voting on this, but, and J.P. Dinkins has really made me think even harder about it. But having listened to these passionate workers, I am going to vote for it. But let's all ask the right questions and make sure we know, and the public knows, where their money's going. Thank you.
Thank you. Justice Pond?
I have a question for the county attorney. Is it, just to clarify something as far as the discussion goes and what I'm hearing? I don't believe the state by law would allow us to put something on the ballot without some specifics. Is that not correct, sir?
Well, certainly there could be a legal challenge to something. I will point out, in this particular ordinance, under the Article 1, towards the end on the second page, it's probably around line 46 or 47, that the ordinance, bond counsel that wrote this tried to construe this as narrowly as possible to make sure that there wasn't a way out for anything to be used. And so it specifically states that the money can only be used to acquire, construct, improve, expand, equip, and maintain public safety communications system facilities and apparatus, including any necessary land acquisition and utility and road improvements. And without trying to get into the actual specifics, because I think there's a lot of unknowns as to what that's going to entail, right now, based on the information we have, and I believe it was said, which is true, we don't really know and won't know exactly. It's not like a building where we can get pay an engineer to come in and draw us a plan and say this is exactly the specifications. And even if we did, you know that there are things that change on a building from time to time as well. And so this was a proposal that was made to us in kind of a rough estimate of what we're looking at. And you're right, we don't lock in a price until we sign a contract, and clearly we can't sign a contract unless we can fund a contract, because that's illegal to sign a contract for which we don't have the money to fund. And so the money collected can only be used for those purposes. It cannot be given to anything else. It cannot be used for any other purpose other than emergency communications and equipment and upkeep. And so you're right, we do have to be pretty specific on that, because certainly there's a chance of legal challenge, which is why bond counsel spends a lot of time doing this. And so I think that it is the intent here was to construct this or write this ordinance in a way that makes that pretty clear and kind of ties our hand. And as far as the purchase of any equipment, you know, the county will purchase that equipment, and it'll have to be something that's usable on that system. And then we will then loan that out. We cannot give those radios or communications out. We will provide them, but they will actually belong to the county. So that's just kind of where it is on there.
Thank you, Mr. Lester. Thank you, Madam Chair.
J.P. Lemming?
I'd like to call the question, please.
Okay. There's been a call for the question by Justice Jenkins and a second by
Second.
Justice Eva Madison. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Ms. Patty? Oh, public comment.
You need to do public comment. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Public comment?
Thank you, Woody. David Ruff, Prairie Grove. I work for the county, run a grader for them. My route used to be in Winslow, and I've got a handheld radio that I have in my grader. I can talk from that Chief's fire station to Willie's fire department over in Lincoln. No problem at all. I have a better radio system than a lot of these rural fire departments have, and I'm just a grader operator. Give our rural fire departments the equipment they need. That's just common sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez? Patrick Deacons? Lisa Ecke? Sam Duncan?
No.
Chandra Washington?
Yes.
Eva Madison? Andrea Jenkins? Suki Hires? Sue Madison? Willie Lemming? Ann Harbison? Butch Pond? Lance Johnson? Susan Cunningham?
Pass.
It passes. Yes, sir. Yes.
I just want to thank all the JPs from the bottom of my heart for getting this done. And you ones that voted no on it, I hope like heck you don't never have a wreck out in the rural and need help. That's just pitiful.
Okay. Item 22, JP Deacons.
Attorney Lester, will you read item 22, please?
An ordinance to establish the additional motor fuel tax fund, Act 416 of 2019, and to declare an emergency.
Thank you. To remind the JPs, this is a new line item in the budget we're being requested to implement, and we're being requested by the Legislative Audit and also the AAC. I move we pass item number 22.
Okay, there's a motion to pass item 22 by JP Deacons and a second by JP Lemming. Is there any discussion? Is there any public comment? Okay, Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman? Judith Yanez? Patrick Deacons? Lisa Ecke? Sam Duncan? Chandra Washington?
Yes.
Eva Madison? Andrea Jenkins? Suki Hires? Sue Madison? Willie Lemming? Ann Harbison? Butch Pond? Lance Johnson? Susan Cunningham? Passes.
It passes.
We're gonna go back to this item because we moved it, because it's to appropriate money in that one, so you can call on JP Harbison.
Item.
It's from the consent agenda. It was item 4 from the consent agenda, or 5 from the consent agenda.
Okay, now we will discuss item 5 from the consent agenda. Justice Harbison. Justice Harbison, can you use your mic, please?
Okay, we have, number on the consent agenda, it was number 5, right?
That's correct.
All right. Oh, here I am, okay. Would you read the, title of the ordinance, please, Mr. Lester?
An ordinance reducing $414,702 in the asphalt line item in the road department budget for 2020 and appropriating said $414,702 to the other professional services line item in the Additional Fuel Tax Act 416, 2019 fund for 2020.
All right, this is the item, we just passed the line item that this money will go into. So I move that we pass,
16 point.
20, well, it's 22B now. All right.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to pass item 22B by JP Harbison, seconded by JP Duncan. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? I'm so sorry, I keep forgetting. Are there any public comments? Okay, Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman? Judith Yanez? Patrick Deacons?
How much will this raise the fuel? It doesn't have anything to do with fuel.
That's nothing, that's.
It's adding a line item. The money's already.
Legislative audit has required us to create a new line, a specific line item, and so we're just creating that line item and then moving the money they require that has already been appropriated into this new line item from the line item it was in, so it it doesn't affect the budget other than changing some money from one line item to the other.
Ms. Patty?
Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan. Shonda Washington.
Yes.
Eva Madison. Andrea Jenkins. Suki Hires. Sue Madison. Willie Lemming. Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond. Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham.
It passes. Item 23, J.P. Harbison.
Okay, Mr. Lester, will you please read the title of 23.1?
An ordinance appropriating the total amount of $46,701 from unappropriated reserves in the general fund to various budgets and line items for 2020.
All right, in committee, we were asked to sever these or to vote on these individually. These are the 4 people that we approved raises for through 19. These are the increases that will go into the budget on 2020. Those are on page 64. Some of you asked how much they were. So, do I hear a motion to sever these positions in this ordinance?
Okay, there's a motion to sever by J.P. Hires, seconded by,
Point of order. The correct motion is a motion to divide the question.
We don't have a question. We've got 4 positions that we need to vote on separately, if you want to call those questions. Okay. So I have asked that we vote on these separately. I have a motion and a second to do this.
Point of order. I understand. Robert's Rules of Order calls the motion a question. You want to vote on it in 4 pieces. Robert's Rules of Order says the proper motion is to divide the question.
All right, I divide the question into 4 parts.
you amend your motion.
I move,
I will amend my motion to make a motion to divide the question into 4 parts. Second. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion on the floor to divide the questions by J.P. Hires with a second by J.P. Eva Madison.
all right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Kidding me?
Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman.
Okay, yes.
Judith Yanez. Patrick Deakins. Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan. Shonda Washington.
Yes.
Eva Madison. Andrea Jenkins. Suki Hires.
Yes.
Sue Madison. Willie Lemming.
Explain to me what you're doing.
The motion on the floor is to divide the question, so to vote on each one separately.
We need to vote on them separately, so yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond. Lance Johnson.
No.
Susan Cunningham.
Okay, the motion to divide the question passes.
Okay.
Yes. It passed.
I need to ask the attorney a question. Is this on first or second reading?
This is a first reading,
It's a
appropriation
first
ordinance.
reading,
Right.
it's an
It's
appropriation.
an appropriation ordinance, so an appropriation ordinance can pass on one reading, but it has to have 10 votes to pass, a 2/3 majority, 10 for us. If it fails to garner 10 votes after the first reading, by operation of law, it moves to a second reading and then to a third reading.
So it has to have 10 votes to suspend the rules then on the, It has to have 10 votes on the first reading and to suspend the rules to move it to the second reading.
An appropriation order doesn't require you to suspend the rules to move it on. It allows a passage, but it requires a 2/3 vote to do so. Otherwise, it's treated like any other ordinance, and it just then moves on to its next reading.
So, okay, J.P. Washington, do you want to read these and explain them, or do you want me to?
You can.
Okay. All right. The first one says General Services, which is our purchasing agent. The full increase in the salary is $4,446. Social Security and matchings was $342 with $682 for a non-contributory retirement. So someone had asked what her increase was, and there is a question because Lance Johnson made a motion. If these people get their raises, then they will not be eligible for the 3% raise. And so I wanted everybody to understand that. Okay, I'm going to move that we approve the purchasing agent's increase in salary.
Is that coming out of budget buildings and grounds? Is that what that is?
It'll have to come out of
No, but whose budget would that be in?
it's the judges, the county judges. It's new money.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Public comment?
Laurie Marshall of Springdale again. I would love to hear an explanation about how this could be passed when the third reading of the actual approval of the raises has not happened yet. Either I'm misunderstanding something, or I don't know if I'm not understanding the order, but my assumption is if the raises haven't been approved, then we can't pass something that then puts the money into the budget because it hasn't been approved yet. So that's my question.
Are there any other public comments? Miss Patty?
Harvey Bowman,
I want a clarification of exactly what we're voting on.
You're voting to approve the salary increase just for the general services position.
Okay,
Which is
all right.
purchasing
Gotcha.
agent.
Judith Yanez. Patrick Deacon. Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan. Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Eva Madison. Andrea Jenkins. Suki Hires. Sue Madison. Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
And Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
It's approved.
It passes.
All right, now, Mr. Lester, can I make a motion that we put this on second reading?
No, it
It
has
passed
more than
by
10 votes, so
10.
it passed.
So
yes.
it's.
So it's done.
It's done.
That's
All
correct.
right. All right. We now are at our grants administrator, a $3,120 raise with Social Security matching $239 and non-contributory retirement at $478. I make a motion that we pass this increase for the grants administrator. And I would like to make a comment. Judge Wood and I have discussed that this should come out of the grants administrative money, not out of general fund. This is just something that he's going to consider later this year. So, anyway, I move.
Second.
Motion is-
All right, I made the motion, so he's going to second it.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor by J.P. Harbison for the grant administrator raise of $3,120, $239 for Social Security matching, and then $478 non-contributory retirement. It was seconded by J.P. Pond. Is there any discussion? J.P. Hires?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to remind the court that we just denied this raise for the 2019 budget. So, or it has moved to third reading, I guess. So if we appropriate this, we're going against the vote that we just made a few minutes ago.
Is there any other discussion?
Yes.
J.P. Madison?
I was confused by J.P. Harbison's comment because this ordinance is taking this out of unappropriated reserves.
It
It's-
is,
It's
yes.
not coming out of, it's not gonna just move money around, so it's new money.
It's new.
Thanks.
J.P. Bowman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I've been around here for 7 years, and I think we had 1 year where we had more money raised through this department than any other year, and that was for the water deal, which was unusual and extraordinarily large. But this lady has done a phenomenal job of soliciting and getting grants, and I think that is very deserving of this increase. So, thank you.
J.P. Ecke?
Keeping with the position and not grading the person, the person holding this position has a master's degree in mathematics and trigonometry. When you go back to the job evaluation assessment program done by the Johansson Group, there's different grades that look at their qualification, education, experience, and background. And that's where you get market value and determination. So that's where we get the salary from. That's to protect the county. I will say that this grant administrator is saving the county money because we no longer have to pay a commission fee for somebody to write our grants because she is the grant writer. Now, I did go to the AAC and ask if she could collect a commission for doing that, just like other, our treasurer collects a commission for being a treasurer. And they said, no, even though you had to pay one, it's great that your county has a grant writer. Good for you. You're saving money. But the money that this individual has brought in because of their education, because of their experience, has superseded anything that we've had before. And to say no for this and you say yes for other things is nonsensical. I mean, you weigh the salaries. I think at one time we were upset because, well, Jeannie Mack never made that before. I love Jeannie Mack. So therefore, the new JDC director cannot make more than Jeannie Mack did. Well, that was grading a person. That was evaluating and saying, you cannot make more than Jeannie Mack did. Even though the new JDC director has a PhD. So there's market value in education, and that should count for a lot. Either that or we'll just all go and get our degrees for free, and it won't be worth a flip. But I will support this, and I think that we have benefited as a county millions and millions of dollars because of it. Thank you.
J.P. Lemming?
Let's call the question.
Motion to call the
We
question.
got a second.
I'm sorry.
There's a motion to call the question.
We got a second.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor that called for the question that was seconded by J.P. Madison. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ms. Patty? Public comments. Sorry. I keep forgetting y'all. Okay, Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Judith Yaniez. Patrick Deacons. Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Shonda Washington.
Yes.
Eva Madison. Andrea Jenkins. Suki Hires. Willie Lemming, or Sue Madison, sorry. Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham.
It passes. JP Harbison.
Our next position is the county attorney, with an increase of $28,660. If someone, I'm not gonna make the motion to pass this because I think this is excessive. And I've had, so, Sam made the motion, okay.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made by JP Duncan and seconded by JP Yanez. Is there any discussion? JP Hires?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I feel like I'm in Groundhog Day. We have talked about this very excessive raise. It's over 35%. Again, this is not about the person. This is about the fact that we have gnashed our teeth about an extra 1% for most of our county employees, and this is $28,660 out of unappropriated reserves. So if we're really concerned about spending money, if this had been a more reasonable raise on top of the $10,000 raise that was received by the county attorney in 2018, I might consider it, but I think that this is incredibly excessive, especially when we are so very concerned about how our money is spent. Thank you.
Thank you. JP Madison?
I just wanted to comment that there are elected officials that don't make this much money, and our county attorney is not elected. That position is appointed. Furthermore, this would make our county attorney be the highest paid county attorney in the state. Thank you.
JP Ecke?
I will say that we need to, what I think in my past experience is with years of service, increments. If you've been with the county so many years and you performed, you have a basis to which you are able to get a raise due on years of service. I think those small increments would be a lot easier to take than this. And I just want to acknowledge all the phone calls that I've received, all the emails that I've received, and I am not going to vote in favor of this because I think we need to reevaluate the increments of, as far as years of service. So, but to let everybody know that I do hear your voices, and I received all your phone calls, and there were many, and many emails. So we'll come up with a solution, one that's just in increments and not all at once. Thank you.
Move to Reed's question.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to call for the question that was made by JP Johnson, seconded by JP Duncan. All in favor? We're voting to call the question, and after we vote on that, then we'll open it up for public comments. All in favor? Any opposed? Public comments?
I don't know our county attorney.
I'm sorry, could you state your name, please?
Yes, Janelle Smiley, West Fayetteville. I don't know our county attorney. I don't have a personal opinion based upon his personality at all. But as an attorney, I do have an opinion on the subject of pay when you're a county worker and you accept a job knowing what the pay will be. Student loans to the contrary. The pay, as I understand it to be, is not out of, it's not beyond reason. It's not, he's not impoverished by the amount of pay he's receiving. And when everyone else is getting a 2% raise, to suddenly bump his pay exponentially, it looks wrong. I agree with J.P. Ecke. Something more incremental would make sense. And the other concern I have is if on all of these other positions we've talked about job performance. We've heard nothing about his batting average. I don't know, Mr. Lester, if you're winning all of your cases or if you're losing all of your cases. But what I'm hearing is that you're losing all of your cases. If indeed that is true, I don't understand why we're here even talking about this. Thank you.
Laurie Marshall again. I'm looking on the county website at the salary ranges. This says that the latest ones that are listed are from 2016, so I don't know what they are currently. But it looks like the top pay range is pay range number 29, and the annual salary max for that pay range is $91,436. So I'm not sure how we can approve a raise that gives someone more money than the max of the top pay range that the county allows for. That doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't work as far as jobs I've had before. I've worked at the university for many years, and there was a pay range, and that's what you made. And once you got to the top of that pay range, you were done. That's as much as you could earn. And if it wasn't enough to live on, then you went somewhere else and got another job. And I disagree with the idea that we can just give somebody more money without, as the previous woman said, without even giving any reason for it. It was just something that the judge decided to do. And I think I want to see why. And I want to see why the justification of going above the highest pay range on the county scale, like, I need to know why. That doesn't make sense to me. Thanks.
Are there any other public comments? I would like to offer a friendly amendment to the motion on the floor. I would like to amend it to read that we will offer a raise in the amount of $10,000 that will put the county attorney at what the maximum is, and then consider an incremental increase in future years.
Second, if you need one.
I do, thank you. So there's a motion on the floor that was made by me, seconded by J.P. Pond. Is there any discussion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You say you're wanting to amend to add 10,000 to meet the maximum. Are you stating the maximum being on what was just presented to us?
Yes.
I think we need that like in front of us.
Okay.
You know, it was read off of a phone, so I really feel like if we're going to do something like that, we need it here in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you. J.P. Duncan?
My understanding is the county attorney position is ungraded, so therefore it doesn't fall into the salary range. And someone who works for the county may be able to speak to that better than I can.
Who has that answer?
HR's not here. You'd want information. I mean, I can speak to it, but I don't want to speak to it.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Is there any other discussion on the amendment? Okay, all in favor of the amendment?
Should we call roll?
I think we should call roll. Ms. Patty, please.
Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez. Patrick Deakins.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Eva Madison. Andrea Jenkins. Suki Hires. Sue Madison. Willie Lemming.
No.
Ann Harbison.
No.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham.
Okay, the amendment fails. So now we're voting on the original motion. Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez. Patrick Deakins. Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Chandra Washington.
No.
Eva Madison. Suki Hires. Oh, Andrea Jenkins, I'm sorry.
No.
Suki Hires. Sue Madison. Willie Lemming.
No.
Ann Harbison.
No.
Butch Pond.
No.
And Lance Johnson.
Yes.
And Susan Cunningham.
So this moves to a second reading. Okay, it did not pass, so it moves to a second reading. JP Harbison?
Okay, we have the veteran service, with an increase of $1,748, with Social Security of $134 and non-contributory retirement of $268. I move to pass this increase for the veteran service person.
Okay, there's a motion to pass the increase for veteran services by JP Harbison, seconded by JP Ecke. Is there any discussion? JP Jenkins?
I would just like to reiterate or agree with what JP Eva Madison had said earlier about this position. My father retired with Veteran Services, worked for the VA hospital for many years. He's a veteran, but that's not what this vote for me is about. We have to figure out, like what was stated earlier, some sort of a step or grade system instead of handing out employees when we are hurting to make ends meet in county government as it is. Thank you.
JP Madison?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank J.P. Jenkins for what she said, and I'd just like to acknowledge that I'm an Army brat. My father was career U.S. Army Artillery. He served in World War II and later worked on the Armistice Commission in Korea. And I doubt that he would approve this raise. Thank you.
JP Bowman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, when I met the new manager of our Veteran Services, I was concerned because I didn't know anything about his background and what he might be able to do. But when I began to learn about all the things he's done and accomplished to increase the services to our veterans in this area, you know, he has quadrupled the number of vets per month that we're taking care of in this county. And that results in income to this county for these people. He's helping to get benefits they weren't getting before. You know, this guy has been absolutely phenomenal. And I think that a raise this size is insignificant compared to what he's contributing to us. So I'm going to absolutely support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Are there any public comments? Okay, is there a call for the question? Okay. Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Judith Yanez. Patrick Deacons.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Eva Madison. Andrea Jenkins. Suki Hires. Sue Madison. Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
It passes. Item 24, JP Lemming.
We got, Bowman's resolution.
It's in my district. You want to tell us about it because you know about it? Okay. Brian, would you read the ordinance?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board.
What this is just a lot divide. It's happening and it's, I don't think it had no controversy or anything. I think we need to pass it. I move to pass it.
Second.
JP Lemming, this is only on the first reading.
Okay, I'll make a motion to suspend the rules, put it on second reading.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to suspend the rules and advance to second reading by
Aye.
JP Lemming, seconded by JP Pond. All in favor? Any opposed?
Brian, could you read it again?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Move to suspend the rules and move it on to the third reading.
Second.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor to suspend the rules and advance this to the third reading by JP Pond, seconded by JP Hires. All in favor? Any opposed? Mr. Lester?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board.
It should pass.
Now move to pass.
Move to pass. Second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to pass by JP Ecke, seconded by JP Hires. Is there any discussion? Are there any public comments? Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez. Patrick Deacons. Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan. Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Eva Madison. Sue Madison, or Andrea Jenkins. Suki Hires. Sue Madison. Willie Lemming. Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson. And Susan Cunningham.
Item 25, JP Duncan.
So this also went through planning board just last week. It is a self-storage off of Weddington. There was no issues, Mr. Crouch, with this. There were no letters of complaint from the neighbors, so no major concerns. Yeah.
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board.
I move to suspend the rules and read for the second time.
Second.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor to suspend the rules and advance to second reading by JP Duncan, seconded by JP Lemming. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Lester?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board.
I move to suspend the rules and take the third and final reading.
Second.
There is a motion on the floor to advance to the final reading by JP Duncan, seconded by JP Lemming. All in favor? Any opposed?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board.
I move to pass item 25, 19-I-134.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to pass item 25 by JP Duncan, seconded by JP Pond. Is there any discussion? Are there any public comments?
Jim Gallagher, West Fayetteville. This is the first time I'm hearing about this, and to be honest with you, this has got less information than the radios. We don't have any idea where this is, what this is about, and maybe that's why you haven't had any comments yet. Sure would like to hear what this is about, since I live on Weddington. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Ms. Patty?
Harvey Bowman. Yes. Judith Yanez. Yes. Patrick Deacons.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Eva Madison. No. Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Sue Madison. Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
I'm gonna abstain.
Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham.
It passes. Item 26, JP Bowman.
Yes. You know, I come to a time here that I feel it's time for me to resign from a position as JP. My health issues have been becoming more and more complicated, and so we're going to have to resign and bail out. Unfortunately, we're going to become Texans. But, you know, but anyway, I want you to know it's been a privilege to serve here. I guess it's been nice to know that we could disagree with a lot of people and remain friends with them, have different opinions and still not be disagreeable. And I really enjoyed and appreciated that fact. But thank you for what I've learned. Thank you for the opportunity to serve with you. And I hope you guys will keep on digging. For those in the audience out here, I'd like to tell you, sometimes when you come in here and you don't have the full scope of what we're dealing with on a daily basis, it's awful easy to go up and criticize. But I can tell you something, when you sit in this seat, you deal with an awful lot of tough issues, and many times those decisions are not easily made. Sometimes they're extremely difficult. And you wake up at 2 o'clock at night and you're thinking about it and roll them around your mind and trying to sort out what's right and wrong. So please realize that the folks sitting around this horseshoe is not flippantly making these decisions. They're seriously considering what's going on. So thank you for the opportunity to serve, and thank you for all that I've had a chance to serve with.
You're gonna
This is a resolution recognizing a vacancy in Quorum Court District 3.
Is there a motion to pass?
Motion to pass.
There's a motion to pass by JP Ecke, seconded by JP Madison. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I oppose. Thank you so much for your service, Mr. Bowman.
Now we got a 27, which is JP Johnson.
Item 27, JP Johnson.
Yes, would you read the resolution by title?
Resolution to express appreciation, excuse me, of Washington County to Harvey Bowman for service as a Justice of the Peace for Washington County.
Thank you. I've known Harvey since before either one of us were on this Quorum Court. So I've put up with him for a long time. And I move that we pass this resolution.
There's a motion to pass this resolution by JP Johnson, seconded by JP Madison. All in favor? Yes, Justice Madison.
I just wanted to say that I've really enjoyed serving with you, and I think your comments are, describe our relationship on this court, that we've disagreed a lot. We found odd common grounds at times, especially during the Marilyn Edwards era. sat by you for a while. But we've remained friends, and I will miss you a lot. I wish you the best with your move, with your health, and with your family.
Justice Eki?
Justice Madison said it so well. I mean, there was, on that court, it seemed like there was so many arguments going every which way, and Harvey always seemed to be able to pat me on the head and say, way to go, gal, you know, that sort of thing. But when I first joined the court, he went like this. Oh, pretty little thing, you're a lot prettier than, what's his name, Rex Bailey. And I just went, I can't believe, and then we had the George Braswell thing and the bridges and whatnot, and it got very cantankerous. And one night I was tired, I was sitting next to J.P. Lloyd and Harvey on the other side, and here comes Braswell, and I went, oh gosh, no. And he caught me at a time when I was very tired. And I guess I was a little too firm, and your mouth just dropped and said, boy, you're bossy. And I said, well, I was a drum major. He says, I can tell. But you encouraged me. You poured into me any kind of background. It's hard to say this because I don't want to just, I mean, I hear Lulu singing in the back of my back of my mind saying, how do you say goodbye to somebody who's been here since I first joined the court, and now you're going, and here we are. But one of the best things you ever did is you keep good friends. You kept Carl Gales, you brought him along, and now he's a part, and he's chief. And you did. You've always been able to keep friends, and that's admirable. And may we all follow in that footsteps of decorum. Harvey, you really were. You know all the county roads. You drove them, and you were able to defend the roads department very well. So thank you. We love you, and we're going to miss you.
J.P. Yanez?
Okay, so it's been an honor sitting next to you. I think you taught me one of the biggest lessons this year is I don't agree with you most of the time, but I respect you, and you've earned that respect. And I know you told me you wish you had more time with me right here so you can change my ways. But I also think I wish I had more time with you so I can change your ways. So thank you so much for teaching me that I might not agree with you, but you taught me how to respect people. Thank you.
All in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye and giving J.P. Bowman a round of applause.
And J.P. Chandra, Washington, I have a resolution for everyone to sign that I'll have after the meeting.
Committee reports.
Okay, the committee reports were included in your packet, so I'm sure that everyone has already read those. So now I will entertain a motion to adjourn. It's been moved and seconded. End of the meeting.
Oh, mercy.
Oh, except I kept forgetting the thing. Like, you have to pay attention, right? I couldn't just fade to black and doodle. No, look.
Are we doing it with a black singular?
Come on, let's go.
Are we,
Sign it.
all right.
Just sign it.
Who's got the better pen? That's what I want.
I don't know if this is working, Brad, because those are collectors.
Well, here, use that one.